If you work in the project management industry, you've probably heard at some point that the majority of projects fail. I know, it's a real confidence booster. Well, to boost your confidence even more, here are some really hard facts for 2026. Only 48% of projects worldwide are considered successful, meaning they achieve their time, budget, and scope targets. Project performance rate sits at around 73.8%, which means that projects only achieve approximately 3/4 of the business objectives they aim to achieve. 50 to 65% of projects don't fully meet their original objectives, and anywhere from 30 to 70% of projects fail in some fashion, depending on the method you're using in the industry sector you're in. And even worse, larger, more complex projects have a much lower success rate at under 10% for very large deliverables. Now, although there has been some improvement over the years, these numbers aren't anything to brag about. We can definitely do better. And in this video, we're going to share the actual reasons why these numbers are so bad. And surprise, it's not the typical reasons that they tell us as project managers. We've all been taught the iron triangle of scope, timeline, and budget. And even now, they try to measure projects based on those metrics. We're told that scope creep, bad planning, not enough resources are the usual suspects when it comes to project failure. But in reality, those are just the outcomes of the deeper issue. The real reasons why your projects are late are actually hiding from you in plain sight. But in this video, we're going to pull back the curtain and bring out 3 culprits that are quietly sabotaging your work, including one that almost no one's talking about yet, until now. So let's start with the problem. The false hope of project management. If you've worked in this field long enough, you've probably experienced one or more of your projects going haywire or spinning out of control. When you're in crisis mode, one of the first things you're going to try to do as a project manager is figure out why and what we can do to fix that. And if you were to follow your textbook, they would probably point you to a root cause analysis of your scope, your timeline, and your budget issues to see where things went wrong. And this usually leads you down a path of finding answers like, we failed because the scope got too big, or the timeline was too short, or the money ran out, etc., etc. So what do we do as project managers? We jump right in, we revise the plan, we submit a change request, we recalculate the budget, we hold 100 meetings until everyone's aligned because eventually we're going to wrestle all of these issues into submission. But what if I told you that approach is why our numbers are still so bad when it comes to project success? Listen, I'm not even on your project, but I can tell you if you're using those old school strategies, you still have not addressed the root cause of your problem. Now, don't get me wrong, those things still matter, but saying that our project failed because the scope got too big isn't an actual reason. Today, we're going to share a rather obvious secret with you, so forget what you think you know or what PMI told you. These are the real reasons why your projects failed to hit the mark in 2026. Let's go. Culprit number 1, bad stakeholder management and engagement. Now, when we talk about stakeholder management, we're not referring to a RACI matrix or a stakeholder register or a weekly email update that you think is keeping everyone on track. We're actually referring to the messy human web of power and influence and politics and opinions that surround every single project. And when you get stakeholder engagement wrong, it silently poisons everything else in your project. Bad stakeholder engagement creates bottlenecks where they shouldn't be. It misaligns priorities. It causes those sudden out of nowhere changes that can definitely derail your work. Now, some people confuse stakeholder engagement with how engaging they are as the PM. In other words, they say things like this: if I'm nice, then everyone's gonna like me, and then hopefully that'll help me get things done. Sure, this may be true, but that's not what we mean by stakeholder engagement. You can be as nice as a sunny day on a beach with a margarita, but if you get that stakeholder requirement wrong, it'll turn into a cloudy day real quick. Now, there's been studies that have pointed to changes in plans by project owners and lack of expert involvement as the top reasons for failure. But I would argue that it's not an executive's changes or a lack of experts that cause failure. It's actually how well you're able to capture and manage the expectations of those people. Hear me out. The classic PM nightmare that most people talk about is a senior executive walking in and dropping a brand new feature on your team right before the project closes. It's a rather cliche scenario, but it also works in this example. The first thing you may ask yourself in that situation is, why did they do that? They know we're ready to close the project. Well, the reason why the executive may have felt that confident enough to walk in there and present this new feature in the first place was because the project manager didn't set the expectations correctly from the beginning. But get this, it's not only the executives who can drop bombs on your project. Don't forget your hidden influencers, the people in operations. More importantly, the end users who have the power to put up a roadblock at the worst possible moment, like right before you go live. A PM's goal should always be to protect their team against this chaos by strategically setting expectations with everyone involved on the project. For example, if I know I have a key stakeholder that just likes to add things in late, I would try to avoid that roadblock by setting very firm cutoff dates for new feature requests. Or I could take that new feature and put it into a next release. Or I could simply set the expectation that the scope of work is closed and cannot be changed. Worst case scenario, I could present the impacts of a change and let the powers that be make the decision. But in all reality, that's the last thing I want to do. The way to avoid this is making everyone aware. If everyone is aware of and aligned on the expectations across the project team, you actually can use them as a form of project governance, which lock them in. They become rules at that point. And here's the cherry on top. Asking people what they expect this project to deliver gets to the core of what their project vision actually is, and also a list of primary requirements that they may want to see. It's a lot easier for them to explain what they expect to see the project deliver than it is to just give you a list of work that they think needs to get done. The goal here is to set these expectations early and revisit them often. Research shows that inadequate sponsor support alone is primarily the cause of failure in nearly a third of underperforming projects. But why does this happen? Well, it really all starts with you not meeting the expectations of those sponsors. But there's a very easy way to avoid this. And if you were guessing, let's use a better communication strategy, you would actually be wrong. You don't need everyone to know everything on your project, but you do want everyone to be aligned on everyone else's expectations. This cuts all ways across the project team spectrum. Your expectations of the team, their expectations of you, the expectations of your clients and your end users, the expectations of your executives, etc. They should all be captured. The easiest way to understand what your stakeholders expect is just to simply ask them. Once you gain that understanding, you have a deeper level of knowledge that any stakeholder register or RACI could ever give you. This is where you start to truly piece together the project puzzle. For example, you may find that the expectations of the end users and the project sponsor don't truly align. That misalignment can derail a project at any given point. But if you know this information early on, you can mitigate that risk by aligning the expectations of both groups before you even go into planning. Some of the first questions I ask whenever I take on a new project is, what do you expect to see or do or want others to be able to do by the end of this project? That one question alone opens up the door to what actually matters most to each stakeholder on your project. And this is the secret sauce to stakeholder management. If you can successfully manage and meet the expectations of your stakeholders, you can deliver any project. And the big key word here is manage, which leads us naturally to our next culprit of project destruction, unrealistic expectations. Everyone loves a new idea. They usually make us really excited about what could be if we ever get this project done. People come into chartering sessions and ideation meetings fueled with what psychologists call optimism bias, the hope of what could be, and it's all biased because everyone feels like their idea is the best one and it's all going to work. The problem is this optimism is almost never based in reality. Most projects are initiated by people with great ideas, but no clue on what it may actually take to bring that idea to the market. This happens a lot in corporate settings. The execs present the ideas and expect everyone else to just figure out how to do them. The unrealistic expectations don't really exist within the idea. We can figure out how to get it done. They usually exist within the timelines that we're expected to get it done by. The biggest unrealistic expectation you'll ever face in your PM career is with timelines and how fast people think something can get done. And believe it or not, it's not always the executives that make this mistake. PMs make it too. Imagine this scenario for a second. You have a work breakdown structure with 200 tasks on them, and you need to sit down and figure out durations for each one. Are you going to sit there with your team and actually figure that out? It'll probably take you longer to build that work breakdown structure than to actually do the project. And even if you did do that, how accurate would it actually be? The fact is, no one can tell the future and give you an exact time frame on when something may get done, even if you ask them. Sure, they can give you an estimate, but a few bad estimates can compound and throw your schedule off by weeks. And we try. We really do. But typically, project managers can't accurately estimate how many people are actually available at any given point in a project, what other projects may pop up and pull those resources in, or even how complex the work actually is until we do it. The problem is, neither can anyone else. Even subject matter experts get their estimates wrong sometimes. So in other words, we may actually be creating our own unrealistic expectations even when we think we're getting the most accurate estimates. Now, the second most common unrealistic expectations PMs will face will come in the form of overpromising and underdelivering. Yes, this is something we do to ourselves. This usually happens to overambitious project managers who are looking to impress leadership or their managers. They convince people that they can get things done quickly without knowing all of the details. And this gap between perception and reality is a breeding ground for failure. It leads to timelines that aren't just ambitious, they're damn near punishing. The team is set up for a death march essentially from day one. They're forced to cut corners, sacrifice quality, just to chase a date on a calendar that was never real to begin with. When a project is built on fantasy, trust will disappear. Because the team knows those goals are impossible, they're not stupid, but leadership will still get frustrated when those impossible goals aren't met. This creates a culture of blame and just constant crisis, lots of finger pointing. Instead of solving problems, everyone is just putting out fires that were started by an ambitious plan. Now here's how you fix it. If expectations seem to be unrealistic, don't be afraid to say it and walk an executive off a ledge if you need to. That's actually part of your job. Saving your organization time, money, and effort is a lot better than wasting it on a project to nowhere. Now, if these hidden culprits are sounding a little too familiar, let me know in the comments. Which one has wrecked your projects the most? Is it the stakeholders who think you can pull a rabbit out of your hat, or is it a deadline that was a joke from the beginning? Let me know. Also, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It ensures that you'll get more strategies to save your projects in the future because literally that's all we do here. Culprit number 3, a critical lack of AI engagement. At this point in 2026, if you're not finding ways to incorporate AI into your workflows as a project manager, you're gonna lose, buddy. Now, I know the apprehension people have. If I train AI to do what I do, then eventually AI is just gonna replace me. That is a rather irrational thought for a project manager, and I'll tell you why. AI is actually making your job a lot easier, and I'll give you a few examples of how. Your engineers taking too long to present the test plans to you? AI can build one. Hate capturing meeting minutes on screen because you can't type and you always miss things? AI can help you. You need your team to do a gap analysis that they just don't have the time to do. AI can do that for you. Can't figure out a good sequence for your project schedule? AI can help. In fact, almost any documented deliverable that project managers are expected to create can be built by AI in seconds if you give it the right context. We have an entire course designed to help you draft any deliverable you need in project management. We provide the frameworks and the prompts that you need to get a nearly 100% complete deliverable on your first prompt. Link in the description. Now, there's a unique use case for AI that most project managers don't take advantage of enough, and that's using AI to not only be proactive, but also predictive. Traditional project management is fundamentally reactive. We use lots of dashboards and reports to see where we have been before, but there's always the question about where we're going. If a task turns red on the dashboard, we react. If a team member reports a problem, we react. A new feature gets added, we react. But the issue is, by the time the problem is big enough to show up on a dashboard, a report, or a change request, the damage is already done. But this is where AI can completely change the game for you. AI-powered project management doesn't just show you the past, it can help you actually predict the future. By analyzing data from old projects, current workloads, and even communication patterns, AI can forecast risks before they become disasters. It can spot the early signs of a bottleneck, predict when you're about to go off schedule, and even recommend a fix and some mitigation strategies automatically. Here's the best way to think about this. AI is like a GPS for your project. A traditional project plan is like a paper map. It shows you the route that you plan to take. But AI is like a live GPS that's monitoring the traffic, the accidents, the road closures, and the cops in real time. And it doesn't just show you the original route. It warns you about a traffic jam 5 miles ahead and suggests a few different routes and detours to get you there on time. This is the real power of AI in project management. Now, to achieve this, you simply just need to feed it as much project information and context as you can and then start to ask it questions. What risks should we look out for? Where are the most likely blockers on this project? Where have things traditionally gone wrong in these type of projects? Who do we think is going to be our most problematic stakeholders? Does the plan meet the original expectations of the stakeholders? You can dive as deep as you like with this. When AI provides the answers to your questions, you'll need to evaluate how valid they are, but this is a great way to point out potential risks, blockers, problem stakeholders, inaccurate estimates, and oh yes, unrealistic expectations. The key here is to ask AI exhaustive questions about things that can actually derail your efforts. Then make the best decisions on how to approach those issues with your project team. Now, this just scratches the surface of what you can actually use AI for on projects, but take it from me. If you get good at using AI for predictive analysis, you're going to close a lot more projects on time, within budget, and within scope. So we talked about all of our problems. Let's talk about our solutions. Let's recap on how we keep things on track by eliminating these 3 silent culprits of doomed projects. First, to defeat bad stakeholder management, you have to become somewhat of a political navigator. Follow this simple game plan to do so. Number 1, map out all of your stakeholders, then rank them by most impacted by the project to least impacted by the project. Number 2, work to understand the expectations of each stakeholder on your list. The people who are impacted the most by this project should have the larger voice when it comes to expectations being met. That's a key. Number 3, use the primary expectations to build governance into your project. This is a great way to make sure that you don't miss any expectations in terms of how you're going to work. And number 4, work to meet or exceed the expectations throughout the project lifecycle. This is how you keep the iron triangle of scope, timeline, and budget intact on your dashboards and status reports. Believe me, it all starts with the expectations. Second, to defeat unrealistic expectations, you need to pay attention to where they're actually going to pop up the most. In your timeline estimates and optimistic ideas that make you overpromise and underdeliver. You can do this by following another simple plan. Number 1, to reduce inaccurate estimates, use a simple average rather than a best guess. I like to use something called the 3-point estimate. I take the average of the most optimistic, the most likely, and the most pessimistic durations. I add those up and I divide them by 3. 3-point estimates are a lot more accurate than guesses because you're starting to factor in all 3 scenarios: being very early, being very late, and being right on time. Surprisingly, I found a lot more success using this method than any other estimation method I've used before. The reason why is because Slack is naturally built into your schedule this way, and that extra time comes in handy when you hit a roadblock. Number 2, fight off optimistic, unreasonable ideas and timeline expectations with data. You can get this data from anywhere, but it needs to be relevant to the project. You want to be able to show examples of why this idea faced challenges in the past, and show metrics if you have them. When someone throws out a very aggressive timeline, you don't just want to say that's too fast. You actually want to show them some data. You want to use actual scenarios to illustrate trade-offs. For example, yes, we can probably hit that date, but we'll have to cut these 2 features or increase the budget by 20% and bring in a few more people. The data not only grounds the expectations of stakeholders, but it also grounds your decision making. And this is how you avoid overpromising and underdelivering. As long as you're paying attention to what the data tells you, you shouldn't make a mistake. Finally, to defeat the lack of AI engagement, there's no real structured plan for you to follow, but in the famous words of Nike, just do it. Trial by fire here is probably the best way to learn AI. You just have to get curious. If there were a plan, I would say to start small. Explore AI-powered features that are probably already in the software that you're using today at work. Start prompting ChatGPT or other AI applications to become familiar with the types of feedback that AI can give you. Ask it questions, revise documents, build documents, perform analysis, create some pictures. Find out what works, take notes, and continue to learn. The goal of using AI for project management is not only to become more efficient, but also to gain some intelligence. You want to use AI for predictive analysis to spot risks and roadblocks for you, so you can free yourself up in the future to talk about strategy and coordinate with people, because those are the things that actually make a project work. And again, if you truly want to learn how to incorporate AI into your project management workflows, we have an entire course designed around that very topic. AI MPM training includes 5 core modules and tons of additional collaterals that work in the real world of project management. And we teach everything from PM basics to advanced strategies that you can use in the field tomorrow to help you excel. Check the link in the description and we'll see you there. So in conclusion, for too long we've been blaming the wrong culprits when our projects fail. That's probably why they'll keep failing unless you change your focus. The real culprits aren't scope creep or a short budget. Those are just the outcomes of other issues that you haven't addressed. The real issues are hidden forces working against us, the unknown and conflicting expectations that we don't know about yet, the fantasy-based deadline that the executive has in their head that you haven't addressed yet, the lack of adopting intelligent tools for predictive analysis when you know it can probably get you out of a few issues. By navigating your stakeholders, grounding your plans in reality, and embracing the predictive power of AI, you can go from being a victim of project failure to a real architect of success. You need to stop putting out those fires and start actually trying to prevent them. And these are just a few tips that we have to save your projects, but no worries, there's a lot more we're going to be sharing on this channel as we continue to grow. So if this information helped you today and gives you a bit of a different way to approach your projects, let us know in the comments, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. It definitely helps us grow and keeps us motivated to keep sharing these real-world secrets of project management that you can really only get here. Thanks again for watching, and remember, what you do next is much more important than what you just learned. Be the leader that you know you can be. This is Lawrence. Until next time, I'll see you soon.